If you're like me, you're not a big fan of introductory material. I mean, come on, this is advanced training on storage. Let's jump in. But I'm glad you're hearing this nugget for this introduction to storage management because we are indeed going to pinpoint some key definitions, some key processes that'll set us up nicely for the course. So unless you recently hired a trip to Mars and have been living there, you're going to be well aware of the fact that data is exploding. Data storage is under this huge explosion. Great, but have you ever thought about why? Well, it really comes down to a couple of factors. Number one, processing power now has become so affordable, so accessible to everybody that we're really starting to see more and more data digitized. And so all that data that's being digitized needs to be stored somewhere, and costs of that storage are plummeting. My goodness, I just set up a home cloud thanks to Western Digital, and that was like $100 for terabytes and terabytes of private cloud storage. It's also a factor of the issue of transmitting that information. We used to not be so excited about digital data storage because, my goodness, if you tried to send it to someone, it would have a high cost and it would take forever. That's being solved now. And then, of course, there's mobile. All these smart devices, and people fully expect to be able to access key data wherever they are on any particular device. So these are definitely leading to the explosion, these factors. Now, keep in mind that different data is indeed going to have different value. And one of the things we do is we go ahead and design a tiered storage strategy in order to accommodate that. So we'll have expensive storage and inexpensive storage, and older stuff will go down here in inexpensive storage, and the stuff that we're accessing all the time that has a high value to us, that'll be placed in the more expensive storage. But now, wait a minute. Isn't storage supposed to be inexpensive now? What's the deal with this expensive storage? Well, I'm talking about relative expense here. So we'll get faster, more impressive storage that does indeed cost more than the other tier of storage that we're utilizing. By the way, it may not be two tiers. Maybe you have a more sophisticated storage infrastructure that will have several different tiers of storage. I do this with my nugget creation. Absolutely. Once a nugget course is really old, it'll hit a third tier, and that will be DVD media, and it'll go on a shelf. So, tiering of our storage is an important concept. Something else that we think of as we are categorizing our data is regulatory compliance, especially if you're in an industry where this is a big deal. So if you're in the medical field or the finance field, you need to be aware of policies inside your organization, maybe even governmental policies that you need to comply with when it comes to storing your stuff. There's another big categorization that I want you to memorize, and that is unstructured versus structured data. We love to categorize data this way. Unstructured means that it is not organized into any type of database structure. So, of course, the opposite would be structured data, where At the very least, there's like columns and rows in which the data is tucked. Now, a lot of people tend to think of big data when they think of unstructured data. But I need to make it clear to you that big data can indeed consist of both of these. In fact, let's elaborate on this concept of big data. Big data has been so popular, such a popular discussion in today's media, that even if you are living on Mars right now, and congratulations, you've heard of this. One of the things that we really consider with big data, as of course its name would imply, is that we are dealing with a massive volume of data. That's really what big data means. It's so massive, the volume that you have, that you cannot use traditional processing mechanisms in order to make any sense of it. In fact, let's think about that for a minute. Data, the digital stuff that you're storing, that's not really what you're interested in. What you're interested in is information. That's taking all of that data and making something out of it that you can utilize. So think about like all of the transaction records that Amazon has. Hey, we sold this book. Hey, we sold this furniture. Hey, we sold this watch. Hey, Amazon sells everything now, right? So all of that information, well, let's back up. All of that data is going to be pretty meaningless to them if you look at it as a whole. What they're interested in is the information that it contains. They're interested in that being processed and then being produced in reports so they can figure out, okay, how much do we need to invest in advertising that we sell furniture versus just books and things of that nature. They make business decisions based on the information that is culled, would be the correct word, from that particular data. So we've got these massive volumes of data with big data, and we need to process it in new ways. One way that we would do that, by the way, is called MPP, massively parallel processing. So you have this amazing ability to process this big data, and this goes above and beyond what is quote unquote normal or traditional. Remember, it's both unstructured and structured data that makes up big data, and we have new particular elements that we utilize. For instance, we might have big data collectors, devices that are like gathering up emails and sending them to the central big data store. We have aggregators. So we have devices that are specialized at pulling this stuff together. And then, of course, there is users, or often termed buyers of the big data. You could have somebody say, hey, look, I will literally pay you to collect, aggregate, and then analyze my big data and give me the information that it contains. If you've been to any big conferences, you'll see some amazing presentations on this. I went to a Cisco conference recently, and they really showed the great, incredible information that big data could give. And it was social networking big data, email big data, all kinds of stuff to give meaningful information with these volumes and volumes of what you might have thought before was crap. Crap being the official technical term there. Now, when someone at CBT Nuggets marketing asks me, why should someone take your new EMC course? The answer is immediate. Well, the answer is because, well, one main reason is because of the fact that things are rapidly changing right now. They're evolving right now, and you don't want to get left behind in that evolution. And one of the ways we describe that is with the term centric. You see, storage used to be real server centric. So these servers own these islands of storage. And now we are really trying to concentrate on information centric technologies. Yeah, isn't that cool? The stuff that we really want out of that digital data. Now, there's a lot of different components that make up our storage infrastructure. There's certainly the apps, there's the database management systems, there's the host or compute resources, there's the network resources, and then, of course, what we tend to focus on probably too much is the storage resources. So this might look like this. We have a client. This client accesses over a LAN or a WAN a particular host or compute resource. Maybe it's running a database management system or DBMS. And then there is a storage network. And then there is, let's say, a storage resource like a disk array. This infrastructure, which is quite common, has all of these new and exciting technological developments. So we're seeing developments in the DBMS, we're seeing developments in the array, in the storage network itself. The LAN and the WAN is constantly evolving. Even the client software is constantly evolving. I know, you just had Windows 8 pop into your mind, but don't be stressed. Windows 10 is right around the corner. So, one of our goals should be to have all of this stuff configured in such a way that it meets key characteristics in our network environment. And these characteristics include availability. Is the stuff there? How often is it there? And I usually like to expand upon this one and discuss reliability. I'm interested in it not just being there, but it operating at the vendor's specifications. What's the best that that equipment can do for us, and making sure we're hitting that. Security is another big one. Scalability, how easy can it grow? Obviously, the performance, which ties into reliability. Integrity, is it not only secured, but is it only changed by the people that we trust to change it? The overall capacity and the manageability of the particular stored digital information. Now, sure, you learn to configure and build everything, but then what are you doing from a management perspective from that point forward? Well, today in the storage arena, we do a lot of monitoring. We then have to do a lot of reporting on what's going on. And then, of course, provisioning and re-provisioning. And there's great technologies from EMC that can assist you in all, yes, I said all of these areas. Now, the last thing I want to mention here from an introductory standpoint regarding this great evolution that we're in is, of course, virtualization. Virtualization is going to reduce costs if we do it right, increase efficiency if we do it right. Remember, when we talk virtualization, we're talking about an abstraction layer added that will allow you to very efficiently utilize your physical resources. Want proof? Look at server virtualization. I just did this last night. I was studying James Conrad's excellent Windows Server 2012 R2 training here at CBT Nuggets. And I'm going through his nuggets, and he recommended I try it on my own. So on my 32 gig iMac, I went ahead and downloaded the Server 2012 Data Center Edition, and I popped that in my VMware, what is it called? It's called Fusion. Yeah, in fact, I have Fusion Pro. So I popped that ISO into Fusion Pro and installed from the ISO Windows Server 2012 with only like 2 to 4 gig of the overall memory dedicated to that particular image. And I was blown away as that device with that relatively little amount of memory functioned brilliantly. How can that be possible? A great example is running your Windows 7 operating system in like 512 meg of RAM in a virtualized environment. How is it possible? You could never do that with a physical box. Well, it's the abstraction layer. It's abstracting the hardware from the software and playing games with that that makes it so incredibly efficient. So we just absolutely love virtualization. And of course, that leads to cloud computing. That would be CLOUD. Cloud computing is an extension of that, where you are relying maybe even on someone else to set all that virtualization up for you, and you're going to access it from an external location. A great example of public cloud would, of course, be Amazon Web Services. Because I tell my story about the Windows Server 2012, and someone right now would say to me, well, that was dumb. Why are you even consuming your own Mac resources? Why are you storing that virtual image? Have Amazon do it for you. Access the public Amazon Web Services cloud, go in there and go into their EC2, I believe it's called, and go ahead and spin up a Windows Server 2012 image that you can study with and have them deal with hosting. Oh yeah, and by the way, that privilege is free for you to do for 1 year trial period. After that, you can just set it up so that you're paid for just the minutes of access that you are utilizing that Server 2012 machine. In fact, Amazon offers a wide variety of payment plans for that public cloud infrastructure. So, lots going on, very exciting in virtualization. While the examples I just gave were primarily based around server virtualization, realize that these incredible levels of virtualization are taking place in our storage infrastructures as well, obviously, or we wouldn't be talking about them in this storage-centric course. I sure hope you enjoyed this very brief introduction to storage management, in which we talked about the explosive data growth and why it's happening, things like structured versus unstructured data, big data, and this amazing evolution that we are currently underway with when it comes to modern storage technologies. I sure hope this nugget was informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.